All right, I think everything is put back together and I think we're ready to do the first start. It's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be the first quality sounding first start you guys are ever gonna hear on my channel. I'm pretty stoked about it.
Welcome back to another episode of Broke Premiere, guys. Me and the missus are back from vacation. It was awesome. We ended up going to Puerto Vallarta. We got back, I think we both kind of caught a little cold, something there. So the throat's a little raspy right now. Might even be allergies that we just hit coming back, I don't know. Anyway, I'm probably gonna try not to talk too much over the next few clips. I'm trying to get this thing to heal, but I hope you guys noticed, I believe the camera should be a lot better right now. I've upgraded to a really nice camera, and soon, probably in the next clip or the clip after, the audio should sound a lot better too because a microphone's coming. Should be a better experience. I think the content's gonna shift a little bit, but I think it's gonna be a lot better. I think a lot of you guys are gonna enjoy it a lot more. But with that said, time to get back to the Audi. I ordered a whole bunch of parts. This is the nylon tubing for the Evap. I will say I think it's smarter to just order the whole hose kit. It's $31, this was $15. This stuff is pretty hard. I thought it was gonna be a lot easier to mold. I'm really gonna have to take a torch to it. But basically that is going to fix all, or at least two of these little dumb tubes. The other thing I picked up was the new cam follower. So, if you guys were wondering what this should look like, left one is what it should look like, right one is how it came out. So I believe this should probably help part of our fuel problem, that mixed with the Evap hoses. This thing should purr like a kitten when I'm done. At least that's the goal. Hopefully it runs good, but right now what I want to do is get started putting everything back on that I can put on. First thing is going to be this cover, then put on the fuel pump, then try to redo those hoses. In fact, I might start with those hoses just because it's going to be easier to finagle and play with them while that's out of the way. So that's where we're going to start. Try to rebuild those hoses, see if they fit, see if it's going to work, or if I have to order that as well. So I'm going to get started. See you guys in a bit.
It is the next day. That hose was a major failure. I should have just ordered that, not dealt with any of it. It seemed way easier in my mind. That nylon tubing is very hard to mess with. You really do need like a specialty tool to do it. I tried boiling it. I didn't even show you guys that. Tried flame, melts it. Tried the heat gun. If you're not careful, melts it as well, and still doesn't get it malleable enough to get it on there all the way without kind of breaking the other piece. So decided I'm going to skip that. I'm going to try to get the part probably tomorrow at the junkyard, just for a few bucks. If I can't get it, then I'll have to get it next week, but I would like to try to get this car started in this episode. I only have until tomorrow night. Hopefully we can make that happen. But for right now, what I would like to do is to start torquing all the bolts on the valve cover, put on the timing chain cover, put on the high pressure fuel pump, probably pull the rest of the hoses off that go to that piece I need to get. And yeah, just kind of try to start sealing this up completely. Probably gonna take a little bit, but like I said, I want to try to get this thing running by tomorrow night. Anyway, I'm gonna get started. See you guys in a bit. Okay, that was a failure. I forgot that I lost 2 bolts to tie this thing down. They're down here somewhere in the engine. So I'm gonna have to grab those when I'm at the junkyard. But now I guess we will move on to the timing chain. So it seems like I'm hitting a block almost everywhere that I go to do something. But basically, one of the bolts was missing for the high pressure fuel pump. I realized that I lost 2 bolts for the valve cover. I also misplaced something else, which I'm trying to remember what it was. Anyway, what I want to do right now is put back on the Evap pump along with putting on hopefully the serpentine belt and kind of almost finish this thing and get it back together. Basically just the parts that we're going to need that I don't have will be the last part. I'm going to get started. It's the next day. I need to go down to the junkyard and try to get all those hoses that are busted. I could pay like 50 bucks, wait a week and try to get it done then, but I want to try to get it started today, and it's probably going to be like 12 bucks all said and done to get all the parts. So I want to go down there, try to find them. It's going to be hard. There's only one A3 that should have it, and I don't know if it's gonna. I need to get a bolt for the fuel pump, and there was another hose that I found that I honestly totally forgot about, but that guy right there, the actual vacuum line, that goes down into somewhere near the block, and it was already falling off. Imagining why this car was kind of running a little rough. Between all 3 of those leaks, kind of makes sense to me why it sounded the way it did, why it runs the way it did. It might even shift better now that I get all these vacuum hoses done. So I think that's it, but I'm gonna start heading down there. All right, so I am back from the junkyard. Everything went pretty smooth. I got all the hoses, in fact, an extra hose that I needed for like less than $6. I think it was like $5.76. Tax included, everything. I'm very happy. I was able to get it today and save like 50 bucks. I also went and got the coolant and a vacuum pressurized coolant refill pump thing. Basically, you need that for Audis, at least you're supposed to. These can have a lot of little air pockets in them. I was just about happy that everything's gonna be wrapped up, and then I realized I forgot the valve cover bolts. So I don't know if you remember, but I lost 2 of these bolts. Just remembered it because I was thinking, why isn't everything gonna be done today? And why haven't I done more? And it was because of those 2 bolts. I found 2 little guys like this that should work. They're little 8mm bolts. They're just long enough. I think they're gonna work, and I should be able to torque down the valve cover now. So I'm gonna get started putting in the bolt for the pressurized fuel pump. After that's done, put on the vacuum lines, crank this thing over. It's the next day. I ended up getting a little frustrated. It was about 8 o'clock at night and I still couldn't get all the hoses on. I really am still fighting to put on those plastic ones. I don't want to break them, but they need a little more pressure, but they're just not going on. It's driving me nuts. So basically this whole setup here, the one down below that you guys can't even see, I can barely see half the time, is the one I'm struggling with. It just won't go on this last little like 1/4 to 1/10 of an inch. Anyway, so I'm gonna be messing with that, but I think first I'm gonna try to remove this little plastic piece since I have to replace it anyway. And once I remove this, I should be able to move this big hose up a little bit. I'll use a bungee cord, kind of pull it out of my way, and hopefully I'll be able to see a little better and maybe get a little more room with pressure with my hand in there. I'm gonna start there, and then I'm probably just gonna push forward and try to get everything done. There's one hose back here. I'm not sure you guys are gonna be able to see me get this one on. I'm gonna try my best so you can at least see the top, but the bottom is like way in there in the back. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to see it or do it by feel. Anyway, I'm gonna get started with the hose. So all the hoses are put back together. I ended up doing a coolant hose. I don't think I showed you guys just because it was so buried down in there that I could barely see the hose as it was. Basically what happened was one of the coolant hoses kind of blew out. And what I mean by blew out is it kind of started to deteriorate and kind of expanded the ends past where the clamp was. Kind of just got fat and worn out. I think that usually happens when a little bit of oil gets onto rubber and then keeps getting heated up and goes through cycles and it starts to just kind of poof out the rubber. So I cut cut that off because I didn't feel like that was a good fit and that there was probably going to be a leak, and it did seem to be fluid around that area. And since I've done all this work, I don't want there to be any leaks, especially when I'm about to pressurize this thing. That's what I want to do right now, is I want to pressurize the coolant system, and I'm going to fill the thing back up with fresh coolant. All right, I think everything is put back together, and I think we're ready to do the first start. It's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be the first quality sounding first start you guys are ever gonna hear on my channel. I'm pretty stoked about it. I hope that remains to be true after this clip, and I don't find out in editing that I was completely wrong. Anyway, I wanna start this thing. Okay guys, so I believe you got to see the first test drive after the timing chain, timing belt, transmission, fluid change, filter change, cleaning, and coolant change. I still have to do an oil change, but I wanted to make sure everything was running good before I did that, because I want to do like a engine cleanser when I do the oil change. But this thing is a little ripper. It made me realize how slow my Mustang actually is, which is kind of funny. This thing can just get down and go and grip right to the road. It's crazy how quick it is. And it's not even that fast of a car, but it makes me realize like the fast cars that I've driven, this Mustang that I drive is not that fast. I just have a lot of fun in it. Anyway, good news, bad news. The cooling fan keeps clicking on really fast. I don't know why. I'm assuming that the coolant didn't bleed right and the radiator is reading hot, so it keeps kicking that fan on. But the coolant, I don't think the vacuum went right. There's supposed to be like almost 2 gallons in this thing, and I barely got 1. And I'm assuming this is probably what happened with my Passat that blew the head gasket. So I gotta figure out how to re-vacuum this, put more coolant in, because it's not right. It's just not right. I know it isn't. But for now, I'm gonna let it cool off tonight, and then hopefully try to do it maybe next week, something to refill it, do the whole thing. The good news, the Evap issues are gone. Car runs great, shifts great. I mean, if there was ever a transmission problem, it's gone. If there was a fuel misfire, it's gone. The Evap is perfect. The Evap monitor already set, no codes. The only code I got was problem with connecting to transmission module or something like that. E1013, something weird like that. And all I'm assuming with that is that I might have unplugged a wire somewhere. I know that connector to the transmission control module or to the shifter solenoids was a little hard. So I'm a little nervous that that might be messed up. I'll have to go back and check that out. But as far as engine and driving, this thing is awesome. I'm very happy with it. Very cool. I'm very excited for this thing. So hopefully next week we'll be finishing up maybe some of the paint on this and maybe bringing the Forte to the auction. Be very cool if I could. I'm still waiting for the license. The auction still needs the license. The temporary permit won't work. It's supposed to come in next week. If it does, we'll be bringing the Forte to the auction, maybe looking at the next flip, along with starting to finish this thing up and get it out of the garage. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time. Later, guys.